So, Mr. Edwin Molina Hernandez, I'm going to say what I always say when we start this stream. I'm going to hand over the keys and I'm going to ask you quickly to introduce yourself. Well, quickly as much as you want, but introduce yourself. Who are you? Where you work? What's your background? Go right ahead. Stage is yours.
Okay, thank you, Henry. Well, thank you again for the invitation. Is an honor to be here. And yeah, well, I'm Edwin. I'm from Ecuador, but I'm living in Germany a few years ago, and I'm software engineer. And the last years, I'm working like a IT manager,
Mhm.
and currently I work like a head of IT in fashion e-commerce. But in the same time, I'm running my side project that is web performance report. And yeah, that is my produce.
Okay. And did you say fashion e-commerce? Is that what you're doing right now?
Yes, I'm working. It's my official work. I'm
Mhm.
working on e-commerce here in Munich.
Nice.
And that is my main work. And then my project that is a web performance report.
Nice, nice. Now, have you always worked in e-commerce? Before so did you start working in e-commerce when you moved to Germany, or did you work in e-commerce before?
No, before I worked in e-commerce, I worked in different countries. And yeah, some sometimes I worked in e-commerce, sometimes in a web agency, other times in banks too. I worked in banks too, and yeah, in different companies. I worked more or less, yeah, more than 20 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I started really young after the high school. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Were you always working in web and tech from in the last 20 years?
Yes, yes, because when I started more or less was the end of the 90s, the starting of the 2000, and then the internet arrived really strong. And yeah, I think, yeah, no, I'm sure that my first job was related with the web development.
That's amazing. Now, was that in Ecuador? You started working in web development?
Yes, in Ecuador, I started my first years in parallel with the university, and then yeah, I moved to Argentina. And Argentina, I worked too, and then I worked in Colombia too, and now in Germany.
Wow. Now, I'm going to ask you something that I'm sure, I mean, this is something that I would ask naturally because, the late 90s, we're talking about, God, just almost 30 years ago. By the way, folks, for those who may or may not keep track, but um, HTML 2.0 celebrated a 30-year anniversary on Monday, which is a little crazy because we're at 5.1 right now, I think, or 5.2. I can't remember. But that also brought the image tag. So the image tag itself is a 30-year-old idea, or spec, we'll say, which is really interesting. And I say this because, Edwin, I guess back then, the internet, especially in, I would imagine, in Ecuador, must have been one of the more challenging uh, sort of like endeavors, with respect to like internet connectivity. Already I'm sure in North America, it wasn't always like the best, but back then it must have been like really interesting in Ecuador.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think in the rest of the world, the speed was not the best because was the first steps for the internet and for the web. But all the not all the companies, but some companies try to understand how works the internet, how is the webs, how is the new protocol that we are involved with, and then was like a challenge in the beginning. And then I was playing in the beginning how create the websites, how is the protocol, how is the languages, and how is starting the JavaScript, all these things. And then yeah, was really I don't want to say chaotic, but we start with the internet and with the web.
And again, I'm certain that, you know, in Ecuador there was a lot of just dial-up modems everywhere for the people who were lucky enough to get on the internet.
Yes, was the dial-up, remember
Oh
always,
yeah.
you need to pay the billing for the phones.
Hmm.
So expensive when you use the internet to try to see what's happening in the internet or in the web.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's very interesting. And again, you know, I'm sure you have stories of just sort of like challenging moments trying to access websites, you know. So because again, that was certainly happening in the late 90s, early 2000s in America. So anything outside of America or outside of like say a G7 country must have been pretty, you know, something challenging, I'll say. You know, I won't say impossible, but certainly challenging. So you are a veteran of the interwebs, as some might call it, or certainly of web development. I'm going to steer off course for just a quick second and ask you, what was your first browser?
My first browser, Internet Explorer.
Okay, Internet Explorer, got it. Um, and again, you know, there weren't that many browsers around that time, so I'm always curious to see what people.
I think it was not an option because more or less the people always use the Microsoft Office and then
Mhm.
have the Internet Explorer and then
Yeah.
yeah, more or less was the Internet Explorer.
We remember that legal battle because they bundled it with the OS, and I think they went to court over that. If I'm not mistaken, I think Netscape took them to court. Anyhow, those are interesting stories, folks. I'm not here to recount history, but if you ever want to learn some stuff about it, go read some of the books that are out there. Now, Mr. Hernandez, I'm going to ask you the question that I ask each and every guest when they come here. This is a stream called Speedy Stream. It's about performance. I'm going to ask you, what was your first memory? When did you feel like you wanted to pursue the idea of web performance more? Was it a blog post? Was it a talk that you saw? Was it an experience that you had? Like, what was it that made you believe, like, oh, I want to pursue web performance a little bit more?
Well, always I tried to work in websites with the optimization, but the name of the web performance was not clear for me.
Mm,
And but few years ago, I received an invitation for Google here in Germany, Munich,
mhm.
for some the workshop or for some the roadshow for some new technology here in Munich, and I participated or I was in this workshop for the AMPs,
Mhm.
Accelerate Mobile Pages, and was the presentation here in Germany in 2017. And in that moment, I realized that there are a community, there are tools, there are the idea of web performance that was more clear, more professional, because in some presentation in this event, I I saw a picture
Mhm.
for web page test.
Okay.
And then when I saw the picture for web page test, I said, "Wow! Now we have some rules or we have some lines to the development for the web development that we can follow and
Yeah.
try to organize our work and try to put some scoring, some metrics. Looks like more more work with more scientists
Yeah.
because then you have numbers, and then if you can to follow something, you can improve something if you have the numbers. And then when I saw, I had the picture. If you
Oh yeah, for sure. Give me a second. Let's jump into this right here.
see,
Okay. Yeah, I see it.
because I think that was my first contact with web performance. In that moment, yeah, I said, yeah, this will be part of my toolbox for work here. And then I started, I think, in the world of the community, the web performance, the 2017.
Is that Paul Irish? He looks like him.
No, I think it was not Polaris. I don't remember the name,
Yeah,
but
no big deal.
I for me was like, if the guys of Google use web states, I need to use it.
Ah, that's interesting. That's funny, actually. What? So you went to this workshop and they were talking about AMP at that
Mhm.
workshop, at that presentation, which is very interesting. By the way, Malti, I'm going to follow up in that email chain. Um, it's interesting because you're now the third guest I've had who has mentioned AMP. And AMP, has been a very interesting conversation, and it sort of fell by the wayside for a number of reasons. But I've said this before. There are some sort of projects that may not have been the most successful, that may have had their share of uh, criticism, but I've always said the idea that they present, which is the idea of looking after performance, is, I think, where the gold is, right? And so,
Mhm.
whether it be AMP, and by the way, AMP, I believe 10 years last month, was introduced. So,
Yes.
I had this conversation, and again, I don't want to take over here, but I just wanted to share this. I had this conversation with someone because if you think about when AMP was introduced, which was 2015, think about the landscape. So, uh, Google Lighthouse did not exist yet.
Mhm.
Certainly, Core Web Vitals definitely did not exist. So you had this very sort of the situation where it's like, okay, how do we tackle performance in a way that's like not hard? You know, like can we make this easier for the average person? And AMP came around, and if you look around, or not look around, but you may also find from time to time some AMP pages just on the internet. Like when you go share something, it's like, oh my God, this is an AMP page, whatever. But, definitely were addressing the idea of accelerated, which was performance, mobile, which is the standard. And at the time, it still wasn't a standard in terms of like predominance of use, but it was trending there. And then,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly. In that moment, you starting see more clear that the trend of Google, the importance of the performance of the velocity, and then maybe yeah, the AMP was not a success,
yeah,
but was the signal of the performance is the path for the next years, because
yep,
maybe it was not AMP, because after AMP we have until now PWA, that is other technology that the idea is try to be more faster, and you can auto install in your browser, but then you can see, and after that you see the core web vitals, the metrics, all the evolution of the performance,
yep,
that before the web test and before the AMP was the optimization more artisan,
mhm,
and then starting to put more professional and more than effective, efficient, and try to an evolution in the way that you can work with all
mhm,
these tools, and with the idea of the performance and the velocity and the optimization of all these metrics that we have now.
yep, yep. No, I definitely agree, and again, it's not always the actual success of the project. Sometimes it's the influence that the project has, and people thereafter go about like finding their own ways of looking after performance. Man, thank you for sharing that. That was really good because again, I remind folks that sometimes the littlest things can sort of start big movements. And I'm going to now transition and say, let's talk about how you took that sort of like this that moment of discovery in Germany, and what happens thereafter. So now you're thinking about performance a bit more and whatnot, or have you taken that over to your place of work and said like, hey, Let's have these conversations about like improving our pages.
Yeah, after I have my first contact with web page tests, I started using the web page tests in all my projects. Normally, I receive web projects, and then I started using and influence the output of my results in the website that I building or I fixing or I improvement with the idea of the web page test. In that point, I started um, sending, more or less reports about performance. And then in the next years, starting, I'm not sure, but maybe the lighthouse arrived, and some factor for the sale was the speed. I think I'm not really sure in 2018, 2019,
Mm-hmm.
and then we started providing the service of performance for our client in the ex company that I worked at. And sometimes big companies started to create some departments about SEO
Mm-hmm.
and try to do a process to deploy the websites before the live.
Mm-hmm.
And in this process, I was involved to create or to analyze the pages before the launch.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did some reports, and then I sent the reports on managers in different companies.
Mm-hmm.
But normally these kind of reports was requested for big companies,
Mm-hmm.
and then those big companies started with the project and then said, yeah, Edwin, please, you need to make the review of the code, the review of the performance, everything is fine. If not, please send me a report with the recommendation, with the observations, and then I take the idea of put together the metrics of web test, the metric of Lighthouse,
Mm-hmm.
and then create a unique report with the observations, and then send for the managers in the different companies or the different clients that we worked in that moment. And this was the moment that I said, yeah, maybe something is happening here.
Mm-hmm.
Is not in that moment specific, but I started with this kind of work. More or less, I did this kind of reports 1 year, one and a half year,
Mm-hmm.
and then I see, yeah, this is nice because after the report, the other companies that develop the pages or the website starting the optimizations, and I was in contact with the other developers, with other companies.
Mm-hmm.
And my main work was the audit of the performance. And then, yeah, I started talking with other clients, offered the service for performance in the company that I work at. And then one day, I remember until now that I head of marketing asked to me, please, Edwin, you can send me a report for me because we need to evaluate how is the website now. And I said, yeah, here is something strange because, yeah, this company has the own team, the own developers. And why the chief of marketing not ask to their internal team for the report? And then I said, yeah, looks like there are a gap here internal in the company that are not communication between managers and the technical teams that maybe I can help, and maybe I can make an automatization because I don't want to do more work. And because, if the manager requests to me a report, I need to do the report and I need to send, but I have more work.
Yeah.
And then in this point, I said, yeah, because the web test offer an API with some, yeah, was 100 tests, I think. I don't remember really good.
Mm-hmm.
But I started consuming the tests, create the reports, and then I did the first test of my send reports with metrics. And that was the where the idea come.
Mm-hmm.
But it was not the with the name web performance report, only the idea to send reports in automatic way. That was the
Yeah.
beginning.
So there's a lot there, but I love I love this story. So when you started to sort of piece together the reports, what year was this about?
Uh, okay, had the reports. I started like a Lego, I started put the what is in the header, what is in the second section, all these things. But then I said, yeah, this is a little bit complicated. And then I said, yeah, I need to inspire in other things. And then I realized that the idea of web page test was really clear.
Yeah.
Was a journey from the server onto
Mm.
the browser.
Yeah.
and then you have the scores in the top, and then you have the main metrics for the size of the page, the request, the main metrics,
Mhm.
and then you can go more in deep through the other sections.
Yeah.
And then I said, yeah, maybe I need to take the most important sections and
Yeah.
they put together in a report, because the reports is more or less the high level report. It's
Yeah.
not necessary add all the story, all the metrics
Mhm.
in deep, because the report is thinking for a C level
Mhm.
or for the managers of the company. But it's for technical people too. But the most important part is that this kind of report receive the managers,
Yeah.
and then
So
follow the idea. Sorry.
no, no, go please. I'll let you finish.
And then follow the idea web test. I create the first layout.
Yeah.
The first layout that is like web test in a small version.
Mhm.
That when you want to see more in deep, you can jump in the source of the metrics, that is web test in
Mhm.
this case. And then yeah, that was the how I made the assemble of the report, and then yeah, then I realized other things too about this communication.
So when did you put together your first report? When you had that idea, like what year was this? Was it like 2017, 2018?
Uh, I think was 20, 2021. I
Oh,
think
okay. But so in 2021, that was like your first, actual web performance report.
no was web performance report was other names in the
Oh,
beginning.
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I started with different names. For example, in one moment, I think maybe it's a SEO signals tool.
Yeah.
Or then I said, yeah, maybe it's not a SEO because I have other metrics that are more deep in the performance. And then I said, yeah, but I'm doing the web test. And then I started with the web test newsletter was the first name, and then try to more square the idea. And then when I have the idea of web test newsletter, I release this idea
Mhm.
because I propose this tool in my ex company, but my ex bosses say, yeah, it's okay, but it's not the moment in the company to invest in one tool. And then I said, yeah, okay, but I will develop the idea in my site, like a side project. Say, yeah, it's okay, your side project is not a problem. And then I started develop the idea in my site. And
Yeah.
the 21 was the first test with some clients and ex-clients and with some friends. And then in 2022 arrived the name for web performance report, but I think the name comes thanks to Tim Cadlick,
Yeah.
you know, because Tim Cadlick, what they wrote to me in DM and said, Edwin, your tool is really nice, but maybe we have a conflict of naming.
Yeah.
What is the newsletter? And then maybe you need to change. And I said, yeah, maybe
Yeah.
the time to change the name because was not web test, was a report. And then thinking about the naming, yeah, with my wife, we we decide, yeah, the name of this is report and it's web performance. So the name is web performance report.
Mm. So let me step back again real quickly. So you went to the Google event in 2017,
Mhm.
and that obviously sort of like gave you some ideas, and then you know you were saying that you were at work and starting to put together like little bits of information and sharing that. So was that shortly after the Google event?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So probably about like 2018 then, 2019.
Exactly. 2018, 2019, 2020, all these years I worked with the idea of performance,
Mhm,
with the idea of send reports, because that was part of my request or my task,
mhm.
but not with the idea to create a tool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only was part of my toolbox.
And again, that's sort of like this natural progression as you start to have these ideas. Now, you worked in e-commerce and you just came back from a Google event. They talked about performance, they talked about performance, via AMP. Were you starting to adopt a lot of the solutions that they had into your work in e-commerce?
So in e-commerce and in other websites, because I worked in a web agency before. I had different clients, big clients, small clients, and then yeah, I started apply all the knowledge or the metrics or the lines that I have with the tools for performance like Lighthouse and then WordPress test and other tools. I think what is the name?
Oh, why slow? Yes, why
Why
slow?
why slow too and other tools because then after WordPress test I realized that there are more tools, and I started using the other tools too. And then yeah, I did an experience in this kind of work. And then plus the idea of there are a problem with the communication in the companies. I use I joined the idea of the metrics and then the idea of the communication. And then I put together in a product that is work performance report. So the idea is try to reverse the the problem or try to resolve some problem that I know that exists because in the companies I prepare a lot of dashboard for the managers, but then when you review the statistics, no one use the dashboard because I don't know what happened, but there are some problems when you provide dashboards. Maybe the people forget the dashboards, and then I don't know, try to see how to solve the problems with the instinct, but not with the numbers. But when I started sending the reports, sure, the first client and the first users, if I had I don't know 20 users, test users, or clients or friends, all the people open the report in the inbox because the inbox is more easy, and then for me looks like is a natural flow that the data go to the person, not the person go to the data. So the person arrives in the data, sorry, arriving the person review in the inbox and then can to say, yeah, I'm really good, I'm bad, what's happening here. And other main topic that I would like to say is, you have the traffic lights, that with the traffic light system is more easily to read and report.
Yes.
And if you are not expert in performance, you know that if red is red and green is green, and then you can say, please, when you have your report, you can ask in your developer or your internal team, please, what happened here because we have this metric in red. And then yeah, that was the idea of try to create a new flow of communication, and the people can try to read more easily and try to put the same reports in all the levels of the company, because if you are a developer, you can request your report. If you are the manager, you can request your report. And yeah, that more or less was the idea in 2022.
Got it. So again, in a sort of like historical or chronological order, you go to the event, you start to really think about this idea of just like putting together like these reports, and you had been doing that here and there. And now around 2022, you officially have the product that is the web performance report.
Mhm.
And you start to promote the idea of having people, well, let's even get into that. So just say, my name's Henri, I've never heard of web performance report. And okay, I put in my name, I put in my email, I put in the site that I want to check out, and you see that come in. Now, you talked about this gap that was happening between management and tech teams, but you had non-tech people ask for the reports. So far in the sort of um, data set that you have, um, how would you describe the users? Is it still mostly developers, or is it like a fairly large amount of non-developers? Like, what is the split like?
I think now is a mix
Mhm.
because the I have many developers and yeah, tech guys, and people that come from the SEO, I think, that
Mhm.
provide a service of SEO.
Mhm.
But many of the users are sales of companies,
Mhm.
managers of companies that I think have the interest of know how is my website.
Mhm.
No, because maybe not exist the time in the company to review what is the status of my website, because the IT teams has many problems to do,
Mhm.
many things to resolve, many meetings for maintain the core of the company, and sometimes the idea of the web performance is not present.
Mhm.
And sometimes when the IT department knows about the performance, but the team not has the push of some internal sponsor. So it's
Mhm.
complicated to develop the idea of web performance, because you need to add the performance like a culture, because it's
Mhm.
not only fix some technical problems, because when you design, you need to think in, yeah, I need to use this slider or this image or the size of this image, or I need to do that the transitions and the effects and all these things. You need to try to teach to the people, the designers, to the managers, to the marketing, and then the managers need to know that that is important for the conversion or for the journey of the people. And then all these things are not clear,
Mhm.
according to my experience. Maybe I'm wrong, but looks like sometimes that the sales try to know what is happening in my website or in my e-commerce, and then this moment is when most of the users subscribing the report, because
Mhm.
for web performance report is not necessary in technical knowledge. Only you need to add your email and your URL, and then in the next 1 hour or 30 minutes you receive your report with the current status of your website. And then
Mhm.
maybe you can receive your report, your status, and then you can start in conversation with your technical department. So this is more like democratization of the data in the companies. So this is more in deep the idea. Yeah, in the beginning was performance, but then was a problem of the communication, and now I think we are resolving a problem of culture.
Mhm.
Mm. But yeah, more or less this is the direction that we are working now.
No, that's fantastic. And, I like the idea of, a company being aware or, you know, staff being aware company wide of more or less performance. I'm trying to figure out when I had this conversation. I think I may have had it with either, one of the last two episodes that I did, but we definitely spent some time talking about culture and how important culture was. And in fact, actually, it was the episode before that. It was, my God, Mr. Malhans Amric from Yoda. And he talked about his non technical manager who asked him to look after performance because the manager understood the significance of better user experience, better performance, and what that meant. And he said he talked about like the KPIs a lot, and but he definitely enabled Amrik and one of his coworkers to go off and really take time to work on performance, because a lot of times that's like the challenge. Like you'll have a team that won't, or a team lead who may not give you all the time you need to make some of those changes. Um, so let's go back to 2022. You've launched officially Web Performance Report, and you have some people kind of like slowly but surely subscribing. Now, what's the growth been like of the subscriber list? Like, are you seeing more and more people come in? Like I would imagine, especially, they might be late to the party, but especially with Black Friday and Cyber Monday coming up, people, uh, subscribing.
Yes, for me was I surprised, because when I released the first version until now is the beta version. We
Mhm.
are close to move from the beta version to the stable version. But in the first days was a surprise for me, because the main idea was for my clients, to support my clients of my ex company,
Mhm.
and then some friends that I have. But in one moment, I started. Of course, I published my project in Twitter,
Mhm,
and then in Twitter there are a community really active for web performance.
mhm.
In few years ago. Now
Yeah, no, not the same, not the same.
it's not the same.
Yeah.
But then, for my surprise, I started reviewing my statistic when I see I remember always this part because the first subscribing from a big company was Jaguar, and then I said, "Wow, if Jaguar is subscribed, maybe I have something to can support other companies." And then the first month, the first year when I started, I see different teams for big companies are using the tool, and then for e-commerce and for different sectors or areas in the economy. But the main part is for tech companies, I think, and e-commerce. But then, yeah, for me was a big surprise. And then I see, yeah, I need to continue with this project because I think now I have the important things that are moving the value in the companies or in the blogs or in your website or wherever that you are running now. But you need to improve your digital asset, or your website.
Yeah.
And then I think now I have the right flow for the communication.
Mhm.
Because if you try to search other tools similar, not exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Web Runner Report is the first tool that use the report to the communication, and this is so important. And I think we are in the right path.
Yeah. 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 Let's. I realize because we've been having such a smooth conversation. Let's bring on. Do you want to bring your? We'll bring your slides onto the stage.
I think it's more easy to visualize what is the problem that I'm resolving with web performance tool,
Hmm.
web performance report, sorry.
Yep.
Because if you see in the left side, you have the ground pull model. What is that model? Is that the manager or the people interested in some metrics on some dashboard need to go in the data in the dashboard.
Hmm.
But for that, you need to remember your password, you need to remember your URL, you need to remember that you have the dashboard, that you need to remember that you control an external agency or you have an internal team in your company, and you have different problems that bring frictions to try to see the data, you
Hmm.
know. And then that is the flow that now is the normal flow. But with the flow that is our proposal, like our report engine, is we need to go into the person, because the person said, I need this information, I need to subscribe this information, I need to know the performance of my website, my page or my e-commerce or wherever you have. And then the data arrive when I want. And then I can see in a common format that is the email and is my inbox, because in the companies the official media of communication is the email.
Hmm.
All these tied to the email and your inbox, your tasks, your reports, your ticket of flights, all these in your inbox, because this more or less is your board or your dashboard.
Hmm.
And then I said, why not you can review your metrics too in your inbox. And then that is the differentiation of the web performance report. And then we have the correct natural flow. We go to the internal sponsor, and when an internal sponsor has this knowledge, this internal sponsor can support the technical teams,
Hmm.
because then the managers know that something is happening, and then you can explain, yeah, we are in red, but we need to move the metric, we need to improve because we need to increase our performance or conversion, or I don't know, or some metric that we want to improve for some goals of the company.
Hmm.
And then this is the point that we can avoid all these kind of frictions.
Hmm.
You need to subscribe, you don't need logins, you don't need password, you don't need the dashboards, and then you have the metrics in your inbox.
Hmm.
Entonces, I think now in these days is not exist I report engine, I think,
Mhm.
or I say that I report as a service. I think this is the part of the communication that the digital era is missing now.
Mhm.
Because the report, always we use reports in the physical world before the internet, now in the internet, and I think now is the time to bring the report in the space that we need.
Yes.
Okay, and then I'm not sure. Then is other, and we can review.
So this is, and I like the way you broke it down because it's like, hey, let me go find the report, blah blah blah. And again, you might not be a technical person, and you're sort of like digging through like dashboards and whatnot. But especially if as a non-technical person, you brought up like the whole thing of like street lights or whatever you called it, green, yellow, red, and they are fed the report that they want on the site that they asked for, and now it's like, okay, and as you mentioned, this is something that stakeholder and or uh someone who's going to be responsible or at least have input in the culture at the company can now take and be like, hey, this is what we're trying to do here. I just got this report. How could we solve this, right? And as you said, like developers, sometimes they're like extremely busy. They may not have all, the time in the world to look after the performance, not because they don't want to, but because they may not have been given the time and opportunity to work on performance. Now, you'd also mentioned something earlier, and I want to come back to that. You're saying that the majority of signups right now, from your, sort of like uh, experience, and from what you could tell from emails, you're saying it's still mostly e-commerce, and what else?
Uh, we have in e-commerce, we have enterprise websites for companies,
Okay.
and we have banks. We
Oh.
have banks, and we have official websites for countries too.
Oh well.
Um, yeah, for high school, for universities, for hospitals,
Wow.
for no-profit organizations, we have to. And then in this point, that the importance of the performance is real
Mhm.
because if different sectors are using the these guys in the sector or in the main companies are know that the experience is important because
Mhm.
if you receive this report, you are involved in these kind of things.
Mhm.
And so I think now the culture is more spread in the world. Is not in the velocity that we want,
Mhm.
but the people are starting realize that we need to be more faster, we need to be more accessible, we need to be more secure, and we need to offer all of these things to our visitors.
Mhm. Absolutely. And you know what? It's always like that reminder because you just mentioned obviously e-commerce, brands, companies are out there to make sure you have a good experience so that you can spend a little more and don't complain about the site. But I guess people, you'd mentioned some government websites. People tend to forget that. They forget how important that is in particular situations. Some years back, I remember Alex Russell, I think, had worked with a couple um, sort of like local governments, if not nearby. Like, I think they had done, he had helped a department, I think maybe in California, and I think it became a case study. And I think it was published to Twitter at one point where a department of, California government, or maybe it might have been Washington State, I'm not sure, but they talked about the improvements they made on the performance side and what they meant to the usability of the site. So people tend to forget that government sites are very much extremely important, especially in particular sort of like climate emergencies where people are looking for information and what to and where to go, and that site has to be as um spry as possible or fast, nonetheless. You'd mentioned like, hospitals, that's also very interesting to me, and again, these aren't things that, necessarily pop into mind, but, a hospital probably has, particular, I'm sure, usability needs, because we're talking about that's like a ground zero for accessibility, but also, the idea that the site has to be as performant as possible, I think is again a very clear argument for performance through all industries, whether it be, retail, government, or even finance. Like you said, the bank, that's pretty important. We know the bank has money to spend, so that's for sure. Um, so we know the gist of the work performance report. We know how it started, in earnest from going to a conference to kind of like seeing a little bit of interest in some of the reports that you were sharing internally. And next thing you know, people are asking for more. And now you have the web performance report. Now, did you say it's not in beta, but it's in a particular form that's always evolving?
Yes, it always is evolving, but until now, I have the label in the website that is in beta version because yeah, I evolving the product, and until now, I think now I can say that is a stable version, but in the next days we'll release more or less our public preview
Mhm.
because we are building a SaaS platform, or like I would like to say is a RAS platform, report as a service platform, because I
Yes.
think the the companies and the institutions need the reports.
Mhm.
It's a moment of clarity because now in the world you have the dispersion of the attention,
Mhm.
and then you have many channels, the social networks, many mediums that you need to follow, and then your attention is really dispersed. And then I think the reports in your inbox try to put the important info, the important data in one common place that and then you need, and always you back,
Yeah.
and then you can to receive your reports. For now is web performance, and then if you want we can talk about the other reports that we have now, because now we have a vision, or we have a more extent concept of the web performance, because
Mhm.
now it's not only performance, because now the web performance is security too, and is accessibility too.
Mhm.
Then this is the reason that we add more reports, follow the same idea, the same layout, the same concept, but with other areas that are important for the user experience. And then
Mhm.
this is the our vision to the 360 degrees vision for web
Mhm.
performance. That
Mhm.
I, if you can share my,
Yeah, I'll do that right now. Sorry.
yeah. Because now we have the reports that is web test. We have other report that is for security, that the source is provided by Mozilla HTTP Observatory,
Mhm.
that we don't have a partnership, official partnership or something like that, but we are using because it's an open source project, because we can reproduce the metrics, and then send a report about web security and the headers, all these things. And the third report that is the last report that we have is the wave report, that I think is the best tool for accessibility evaluation.
Mhm.
And now, from 1 month ago, we have this report available too in our website, and this is a collaboration with the web website and the people behind this tool. But
Mhm.
this is our three reports, main reports that we have. But
Mhm.
continue with the idea of the 360 degrees vision of web performance in our plans in the next month or in the next years. If we keep the project alive,
Mhm.
it add more reports, for example, Google Search Console, Shopify, Google Ads, Website Carbon, Google Analytics, and other different reports, because there are many tools, amazing tools for measurement in the market.
Mhm.
I think we can be a complement to these kind of tools to amplify the 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 tool and try to reach more people,
Mhm.
because there are tools like Webster, Lighthouse, Run Vision, Rhine Archive, or Datadog, or you have Cloudflare that you have access to some metrics, or you have Shopify that you have a good endpoints or to try to collect data, and then we can collect all this data, create new reports, and then we can send more reports for the people that is interested in this kind of information. So this is the idea of our current reports, the idea of the next report, and this is the point that we have this new vision of the web performance 360 degrees vision that for us is, now you have the CO2 is an area that we want to add more reports, the accessibility, the sustainability, security, speed, and e-commerce. And if we can add more more areas in this new vision of web performance, we will add more areas. But yeah, this is how evolved in the next months our project or our product.
Wow. Do you expect to have sort of like a version of this ready, say like midway through next year or early next year? I'm not sure.
Um, our idea is we are in the rollout of the SaaS platform
Mhm.
in these days. In the coming days, we will add the access to our users to the public preview.
Mhm.
That more or less the platform is in more or less is in this way.
Mhm.
More or less is the idea of the platform that we have now,
Mhm.
and where the people can create on demand the reports.
Mhm.
Because now, like is a free tool, we have some restrictions because
Mhm.
for the resources that we are consuming. But when we have the SaaS platform, you can handle or manage your reports, the schedule that you want the report arrive in your inbox, or if you want to send again your report, or you can resend your report to recipes or other people that are part in your company. And then you can play more with your reports, and then you have the historical reports. You have more or less in small graphics, but not so complicated graphs or charts, because
Yeah.
you have the original source, because then you can jump. For example, if you receive the wave report for accessibility, you have your report, you can see in your SaaS platform or in the inbox the report on the metrics. But if you want to see more in deep, you can jump in the source of the metrics. In this case, the wave evaluation tool, and then you
Mhm.
go direct in the website. And this is the same with the other reports. With the accessibility, no, sorry, for the security, you can jump in the main page for the HTTP observatory, and web pages you can jump direct in the web pages website, and the same with the other reports. And so this is the thing that we are more than a complement to the
Mhm.
sources that of the measurements.
Yeah.
Those we can work together.
Absolutely, absolutely. And no, I like that, that sort of like positioning of being complementary to raw, dashboard information. This is kind of like, hey, we are, almost like a summary. And if you want the sort of like raw stuff, then it's like, go get that. Um, awesome. So basically, let me see, 2017, 2018. So in the next, like, within within the decade, web page test, web performance, sorry, my bad. Web performance report will have sort of like blossomed to the SaaS platform that you believe it can be.
Um, yes, we think we are in other step in web performance report, because now I can show you some small numbers.
Mm.
Because until now we sent more than 80,000 reports, and
Wow.
this is amazing. And more or less in our community, we have more or less 3,000 followers now.
Wow.
And the next metric is amazing because we are reaching more or less 60% of open rates. That is, this show us the interest of the people in the reports,
Hmm.
and that is the validation of our reports brings some impact and value in the companies or in
Yeah.
people that are reading our reports. Because I'm not sure, but in some statistics you can see that the percent of the dashboard that are not used in the companies is more or less 60 or 70%. You know, because the people are not using the dashboard, but this new way of communication with reports in your inbox is change reverse these statistics. And then
Yeah.
yeah, we are more or less in 60% of the open rate, 10% of the clicks that we have in our links, and we are growing more or less in the last years into 20-30% year over year. And like you see in the slide, we had, yeah, this is really important because the part of our users are really experts in the community,
Hmm.
are not people that more or less have an idea about the performance or what is the metric of the sale. Most of our users are really experts in but in the world, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that these experts come from WordPress, Framer, Mozilla, Google, Microsoft, and other big companies.
Yes.
And this is our validation that, and is a validation and is a way that we know that we need to go forward and
Yes.
we can continue with this project. And the other part that is really important is that we know that many sectors in the society, on the economy, are using, like you said, the governments, hospital, universities, the startups are using our website or tool, and then yeah, it's really amazing for us. And so this is the motivation that we can continue with this project and we can go in the next levels that we want to reach.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And again, what felt like, and I remember you correcting me when I said, "Oh yeah, tell me about the newsletter." You're like, "Actually, you know, it's a little less newsletter and more potentially, moving towards like this SaaS idea." And I was like, "Ooh, tell me more." So I definitely liked that sort of like pivot that you're making here, and especially now that you're going to incorporate, other sort of like services that are on the periphery of web performance. Certainly, accessibility has always been one, always sort of like hanging around the performance conversation, and security is certainly another one as well. Now, I think you may have someone in the chat who knows you. I'm not sure. I'm trying to see the numbers. Oh, did someone I guess?
Yes, I think it's my wife.
Oh, okay. Well, you
My
know,
kids.
amazing. That's even better, So, are they upstairs or something?
Yes, upstairs.
That's
The
awesome.
bed in the basement.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's amazing. Well, I want to acknowledge the Hernandez family. Thank you for joining in. Um,
Yes.
that's cute. Um, so all right. So as we start to wrap up, you know, what is like we know that you want to build this out as like this sort of like this mini SaaS or mini RAS, as you said, report as a service. What would be like a big, amazing goal that you'd want to reach, that you have in mind, like whether it be, super far out or something that would make, you, your drive even that much more like dedicated. Is it someone that would join is it a name that you would see that would join the service, or is it, something else that you think would just really set the trajectory of the report just on fire?
I think our vision or our goal now is in my idea. I think we can do it. Is being the first report engine in the world.
Mm.
This is my idea or my vision, and try to be the first report platform to provide the service of reporting, and then all these goals put together with AI, because in the end we are a data product, because we are collecting data for different sources. We are put together the information, and then we can process all this data for our customers or for our visitors. And this is the idea that we are starting with a small test in our main report that is for web test, that I think I'm not sure that, but yeah, this is the slide.
Mhm.
Now, from I think 2 months ago, I think we are adding a new section in our main report, that is the report for performance, that we add a AI insight,
Mhm. Mhm.
because you have the system colors, you have the red, the orange, the green, you have the metrics, the threshold of core web vitals, the crocs, all these things. But in some point, you ask, what is the next?
Mhm.
What I can to do with this information? What is happening according to these numbers? And we are using now AI to try to explain or create a summary about your report.
Mhm.
And then you have an explanation that you are in good trend, in bad trend, that the user experience is suffering or not, or you need to make adjustment in your server, some small observations that you need to follow, or you need to try to put in your conversation in your company, or try to say, yeah, I need more information, and then you can go more in deep with AI. This is our first steps in the AI, but I think we will do more in this area, because the potential of the data that we have, I think we can do more things, and then maybe in the future we can do like a strategical advisor, because if you have your report, if you have all the history, and then you have all your main information part of the same centralized reporting tool, then you can ask to your reports what happened in the last month, what happened today, and then you can create more insights that are really powerful. But this is for the future.
Amazing. And, no better time than to sort of, try to incorporate, some AI in there simply because there's so much, tooling out there and the conversation is so fresh that there's got to be a solution that's, almost ready made. We know like Chrome DevTools has been, playing around with that and stuff like that. So, speaking of Chrome DevTools, shout out to Jack out there, so hope to have him up soon when he's ready. Um, awesome. This has been a fantastic sort of like summary of, this is like a summary of the summary tool. It's like Inception. It's like, hey, what's going on here? But I definitely do want to thank you for joining us and talking about the report, because again, I remember when it sort of like started to float around. I'm like, hey, what's going on here? And but it's been great watching it grow, and as you had told me sort of offline before, that the interest that was being the generated interest has been extremely positive. You talked about like the open rates being just well above the average, of just services out there that come by email, so that has been obviously a very positive report. Now, in sort of like wrapping up, where do you see the web performance report? Again, we talked about, what your goal was in terms of like, you know, absolutely like a big moment, what that would look like. But, where's the web performance report going to be 6 months from now?
6 months for now, with more reports, with more new kind of reports, with more users, and maybe we are adding private reports, custom reports, and not only public reports. And then maybe, yeah, this is our plan or roadmap in the next few months,
Mhm.
and with more AI features, I think, because we can add the same idea of the AI insight in the other reports, in the accessibility and the security, and of course in the private reports. Like, I don't know, for say a name, maybe for from Datadog or from Shopify, you have your private report that are not public, and then you have maybe custom reports that you have a APIs internally in your company,
Mhm.
and you can use our service to distribute the report. And this is something that I forget I mentioned. We try to be the last mile, the
Mhm.
last mile between the measurement tools and the people that need the metrics. This is our goal, to try to be the last mile of the distribution channel of the information.
Mr. Hernandez, I want to thank you very much for joining us today. That was super insightful. And again, folks, I love to hear about projects, from inception to current state, and obviously to hear about what the future plans are. And in fact, I don't know if you're in the chat or if you have access to your keyboard. You could drop the URL to the web performance report, just like that, folks. If you go to webperformancereport.com, and, hell, I'm actually going to share my screen as well. And it's going to look like something like this, folks. And you'll be able to, I think, subscribe by clicking here, and it'll look like that. I'll have to zoom, and boom, you'll put in your email, your information, yada, 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 test locations, etc. You'll be able to see it when you log in or you hit that page. But nonetheless, this is the report that people have been talking about. Yeah, folks, you'll be able to go to that site and find out what it's all about, and see some more of the information that is going to be available. Do you even have a blog around the report? No, huh? It's just like enter the
No,
information, we'll send to you. Yeah,
not yet, but we will write something in the next month, I think.
yeah,
I have some topics that I want to share with the
yeah.
community, but in the
Awesome.
next is the next are in my plans, are in my
Yeah,
roadmap.
yeah. Not immediately. Okay. Before we jump offline, what is your last sort of comment to the people who have been watching? Did you want to, have any parting words for them?
Yes, yes. I'm not sure that you can share the screen, please.
Yeah, absolutely. To stage, go for it.
Okay, yeah, only say yeah, thank you, but I need to say thank you too for our sponsors, because we have few sponsors, but a really important sponsor, that is the Book Bear,
Mm-hmm.
like Catch Point, and the municipality of Quito, Ecuador. That is my country, that we receive seed capital for this SaaS platform.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say thank you too to the Digital Loop, is our technical partner that we have from 1 week ago,
Mm-hmm.
and for Wave, that is our collaboration with Wave. And
Yeah.
finally, say thank you to the community, that the community of Web Performance are amazing, is brilliant people that really push the ecosystem forward, and I really love the community. I follow the news, the Twitter, Blue Sky, all these things, the channel in Slack.
Yes.
And finally, I want to say a special thank you to my family, to my wife and my kids, Micaela and Adrian. And thank you for all the love that I receive, and the support in this project for that I'm running now, and I hope, yeah, continue for many years too. And thank you to you, Henry, for
No, of
the opportunity, for
course.
the amazing moment to share all the ideas that I have, and the status of the web performance report. And yeah, and nothing more than that. Thank you
Oh
so much.
man, thank you for coming on. Like I said, I'd hoped that we could have had this earlier, but totally understood holidays and stuff. It's like, yes, Definitely go have fun. And it's funny because I'd seen, I guess your wife up there, and I'm like, what is going on here? I'm not sure who that is, but I'll get to that in a second. But I see the messages. That has been great. I'm going to have this episode edited not immediately. I just realized I got a bunch on my plate, and that's why last week's episodes aren't finished yet, but I should have those done fairly soon. Um, that being said, Edwin Molina Hernandez, do not go anywhere because we're going to finish up before I jump offline. And folks, as usual, thank you very much for your time spending with us, hearing about the great guests, the great people in the community. And we shall see you next week, Wednesday. Cheers.